joined by Joyce Gomina, who's the program coordinator at Afrelib Academy, to discuss technological advancements in education. You're welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Coming on the program.
Thank you.
All right, so please tell us, how do you plan to mitigate the distance in the education sector with technology? Okay,
so we have programs and we have activities lined up to help with that. When we have activities that allows children to take what they have, the technology they have to solve problems, to create things, in the process of doing that, they're actually learning, they're actually getting to understand these technologies better. So most of our programs are targeted towards technological challenges, like one that is running now, one we had last year, that would allow them to then take the different technologies that we present to them and then use it to create, innovate, and solve problems. And then we have mentors that would attach to them so that while they're working, they're actually learning and having fun and then getting the skills.
All right, just because of, or for the sake of those who don't understand our conversation or where we're coming from, let's start from the root. Let's talk about artificial intelligence. You know, these days, once you talk about artificial intelligence, to those who know about it, they are scared. Oh, yeah. Because you hear people talking about how artificial intelligence is going to take our jobs in the next few years. But then there are other people who don't even understand what artificial intelligence is. So maybe we should start from there. Maybe you could walk us through what is artificial intelligence, and would artificial intelligence really take our job in the next few years?
Well, it would take the jobs of those that haven't embraced it.
Okay.
Yeah, so I believe everything, there was a time where people were walking, and then bicycles, and all of that came. So everything about technology is to make life better, to make life easier, to make us more effective. So how we embrace it, how we take technology, how we take ownership of it and use it is what matters. So with the use of artificial intelligence, we are able to have quicker results. Our research are faster, then it's easier to do a lot with very little time and even with very little resources. So most times I tell people who are scared of artificial intelligence, I tell them it's just like saying, because you're afraid to fly, you would trek to your destination. So the reason why you're taking a flight is so that you're more comfortable, you get to where you're going to faster, and that's what artificial intelligence will do. It will help the education system, it will help the nation, it will help every industry to actually become better at what it does, because then you're stressing people less. But it can't replace, because the human factor would always be there. You still need that, you still need human beings to do a human being's job. So but why not take what will make you do it better, do it quicker, and do it more productively? Take advantage of it and use it so that you can then excel in whatever you're doing. Okay, because you just mentioned human relation now. Some persons will beg to differ and say, so long as technology comes in, a lot of people tend to just forget the human relation. We actually see it every day in our daily lives. We see when people have their cell phones with them, they tend not to interact with the next person beside them. And it's coming into education now, like you said. Don't you think it will stop the relation between students? Okay, so that's one of the things we're doing. Like for our challenge, what we're doing is we're saying, don't create a solution to a problem that won't benefit the human race. Okay. And don't create a problem you can't explain. So have explainable AI, explainable artificial intelligence. So we're saying whatever solution you're doing, you get a chance to defend it, present it. So if our school systems, I think what we should focus on for schools is to focus on our assessment strategies, such that when they use these technologies, you then bring in the human factor where you get them to collaborate. At our tech bootcamp, students had to work in group to create blenders. So they're using these technologies, but they're not using it alone, because we designed it such that they don't only use the technology, but they get to interact. So there are times where we say, part of how you get your marks as a team is if you pick someone randomly in your team and ask for their name, and you can tell us. So now it's not just about working as a team and not even knowing the people you're working about, but we had to bring in that part so that that relationship can come in. So schools, instead of worrying about artificial intelligence and the negative side of it, can redesign their curriculum and the way they do assessment such that that relationship factor is still there, that place where the child can still think critically is not taken out. That place where the child is given an opportunity to present, so they still can't communicate. Because you solve a problem and no one can understand it or use it, then it becomes useless. So the point is, with the design of how these solutions are being assessed and presented can be integrated so that AI still is useful, and then we don't do away with the relationship part. Even for children at home, you give them a device. You don't just give them a device without a structure to support how they use it. Okay, so when you do all of that, you put all the necessary factors in place, then you still have a healthy nation, because artificial intelligence will not then take away everyone's mind and then we become like robots. No, but we're then interacting still. Okay,
for me, I feel like for artificial intelligence and technology to work properly, we need to bridge the gap between technologically developed countries and not the ones that are not technologically developed. But then how can we bridge this gap? Because it cannot be working for us here in Nigeria, or we are at level 2 in Nigeria and then in US they're level 8. Like the gap is too much. So how do we now bridge this gap? Because I feel like this gap is also one of the issues that we're having in educational system here in Nigeria, because you see most Nigerians, we even prefer to go and study outside Nigeria than study here in Nigeria. So if we're working on improving artificial intelligence and technology in educational system, we need to be able to bridge these gaps. And also, aside bridging the gap between countries, we also need to bridge the gap between teachers and students because of the age difference. And I know that the way we learned, the people of my age, and the way children of these days are learning are two different things. So how do we bridge all of these gaps between countries and between teachers, students, and parents and their children?
Okay, yes. When you said that, I know how sometimes it can be so confusing when my children bring up some things about technology they know, even with how much I've worked with technology, and I'm like, wow, please show me, let me hear you. So yes, there's a gap between parents and children, teachers and students, even within schools, inter-schools, and countries. And that is that's why we collaborate with different schools and different organizations within Nigeria and outside of Nigeria. Because one way to, usually they'll say if you work with the wise, then you'll be wise. So if we're having challenges where students within Nigeria are then working with children outside Nigeria, this particular challenge was opened up to the whole of West Africa. So the idea was to have them creating and solving problems with students from Ghana, from Sierra Leone, and different parts of West Africa. That way, they are able to kind of interact with each other and then see the difference in terms of their gap. So apart from Africa and West Africa, we're looking at collaborating with other organizations outside of Nigeria, where they can then you're able to challenge yourself, because this child you're talking to from the US knows like 80% of some things you don't know. And children learn very well when they are together. We had children who were just meeting for the first time, interacting as if they've known themselves all their lives. So technology can help bridge that gap. When we create programs that allow us, we used to have exchange program those days, where you have people coming from Benue to other schools. So we can have exchange programs, challenges within and outside Nigeria, so that students can come together and learn from one another and rub up. And for teachers, I still say there's no too much continuous professional education for teachers, and that is one of the things we focus on. We keep training and retraining teachers, but most times teacher trainings can be very tedious and boring. Because they just want to meet up so that I can tick that box that I participated. So but what we're doing now is to reward the teachers as they learn. So we're celebrating the teachers, we're rewarding them for learning. So they are excited about it. And then we're not just telling them, you have to pass one exam. We're actually holding your hands. And then you're trying it with us. So everything we're doing is practical. If we punch A, Z, Y, you also punch. So we're walking you through. And I think that is, if the government, if organizations can support teachers with resources. We have partnered with organizations outside and within Nigeria to bring tools that will make teachers very excited about their job. A conference we're planning for August is from the classroom to the world. We're saying, teachers, take ownership of your profession. Let students want to say, I want to be a teacher. Because you've taken ownership of your profession, you're so proud of your profession, you have all the resource, you have all the help, and then your portfolio, your brand is so enticing. People just want to be teachers. And then bankers and engineers are no longer intimidating teachers.
Because you've talked about, bridging this gap between teachers, students, and, nations. So what about the government? Have you gone for policies that can actually make this work? Because if the government does not make the environment easy for you, I think it will be very difficult to bring that into education. Look at the ASU strike here and there, and look at when COVID hit us. A lot of persons couldn't even learn online because we had this gap. So at this point, have you made efforts to reach out to the government to ensure that at least there are policies in place to make it easy for you to inculcate this into most of the academic activities?
Interesting question. The road to the government is an interesting one, and we're really trying to work on that road. And what we're doing now is to understand the policy and see how we can make it work for the teachers while we wait for that roundtable conversation where we can advise. Our desire is to actually have that roundtable conversation where we can advise government, look at what they have, and show them how it can be better. It can really, really, really be better. And we're hoping that avenues like this and programs we've had will give us that audience while we go through the protocol of trying to reach government. But for now, what we tell teachers and most schools is, don't let the policy limit you. You don't go against the policy, but you can make it work for you. You can always find a way. You can be creative about how you work with the policy, such that even where it looks like the policy wouldn't really work for you, if you're very creative and you have all the support you have, then you can actually take that policy and make it something really good for you. And we're really looking forward to when we have conversations with government and government representatives, so we can advise and lend our voice based on what we are doing, so that things can be better for the education sector.
All right. As much as we want to adopt the artificial intelligence and adopt more technologies, we need to also do it right. Yeah. So I want to ask this question because I know that these days, as little as 2 or a year and 6 months, children already have their learning tablets, and then it advances from there. But I want to ask, what technology or what artificial intelligence, or let me just still use the word technology, is too much for a child?
Okay, so when you expose a child too early to technology, like a lot of people say it doesn't matter, but the way a child's development, the way a child's brain is wired, at a very young age, what they need is relationship. What they need is to build on their communication skills, interaction skills. So one of the things we do is we discourage as much as possible at a very early age the exposure to technology.
How early?
So anything before 3,
okay,
as much as possible. They can be exposed to technology just by, you play music in the background, they're listening, that's technology. But what do you do when they're listening to music or they're interacting with technology matters. So when they're playing and you just let them watch, it's not too nice. So you should be able to get up and dance with them. You should be able to form a game with that. So it's not just about, it's not replacing all those other things. So, but after then, when they start, there are other forms of technology. When you have all these Lego games, there are also different ways. So technology doesn't always necessarily have to be the device itself. So there's a way you can bring what you're seeing in technology, start with it hands-on, and then translate into devices. So as much as possible, even for the early years, I know for my children at very young ages, I let them once in a while, just while I'm holding it, swipe through a particular game to hear sounds of the letters and all of that. But it took time for me to leave it in their hands, which is not what a lot of people are doing now. So as much as possible, we try to say, let there be a balance between the use of technology, the child development, and their need per time. So what the child needs at that time is human relationship, contact, being able to express themselves. So if you give them too early, You stop them from they learn to express themselves only through devices, but want them to be able to express themselves even without devices.
Thank you so much for coming on the program. I think we
much.
enjoyed this conversation, and I hope our viewers did too.
I hope so.
Thank you so much, Joyce. Gomina. Thank you.
Yes.
All right, viewers, that's where we draw the curtain on the press for today. We'll see you again tomorrow. I am Olamide Alhassan.
And I am Sandra Ago. See you tomorrow.